Have you ever thought that when you silently walk away from a narcissist, everything would end there? That they would forget you, replace you, and move on with their life as if nothing ever happened? But the truth is quite the opposite. When you leave in silence, it's not the end. It's the beginning of their silent collapse. A downfall that isn't loud, doesn't come with tears, but is deeply tormenting and quietly consuming them from within. In today's video, you won't just be listening. You'll be taken through each hidden stage of that unraveling. The stages a narcissist would never reveal to the world, yet which rage fiercely in the dark once you stop reacting. From denial, panic, and manipulative victim playing, to the quiet moments when they watch you living a life that no longer revolves around them. Everything will be brought to light. Thirdly, stay with us until the end of this video, because the more you understand what happens in their darkness, the stronger you'll stand in your own light. And if you're on a journey of healing from narcissistic abuse or trying to hold firm to your no contact boundaries, make sure to hit that subscribe button now, because here, we're not seeking revenge, we're awakening. And you deserve a brand new beginning, free from everything that once broke you. Part 1, denial. They can't believe you actually left. When you walk away in silence, they don't believe it. In a world built on illusion and control, a quiet departure without explanation, without goodbye, without asking for an apology, it's like a slap in the face of the inflated ego they've carefully nurtured. They're shocked, but they won't show that insecurity on the outside. Instead, they sit in silence, spinning stories in their own mind. They tell themselves, she's probably just upset. He's just trying to test me. She won't stay away for long. This isn't optimism. It's instinctual denial, a reflex to protect themselves from the painful truth that they've lost their supply and they have no place left to project their grandiosity. In this stage, the narcissist isn't mourning the loss of love. They're terrified of losing control. For them, love has never been about genuine connection, but about power dynamics. Every time you forgave them, every time you came back, it reaffirmed their dominance in the story. But when you vanish without warning, the script falls apart. That's when the panic sets in. They start throwing out every tactic in the book. They try to reach out. They post accidentally on purpose stories on social media. They upload photos, smiling, pretending to be thriving, all with one goal, to see if you're still watching. But when all those efforts are met with absolute silence, confusion begins to take over. Silence isn't just a lack of communication. It's a blackout. It's a wordless declaration. You no longer have any power over me. Narcissists are used to being kept alive by reactions, anger, pain, dependency. When there's no one left to reflect back their image, they begin to unravel. This is the first stage of the silent collapse. Denial, for the narcissist, isn't a process of gradually accepting reality. It's a desperate clinging to whatever narrative allows them to feel in control. They tell others you're being dramatic, that you're just trying to provoke them, and that they could still get you back if they wanted to. They use logic to reject the truth, because that's the only thing that keeps the illusion of power alive. And that right there is the beginning of the downfall. The cracks haven't shattered them yet, but they've begun to appear. And deep down they know, this time is different, but you're not the same person anymore. You left, quietly. And in doing so, you opened a new chapter. Not theirs, but yours. Stay with us for the next parts of this video. This isn't just about exposing the narcissist. It's about awakening, reclaiming your power, and returning to your true self. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single second of your inner transformation and the freedom you were always meant to have. You're on the right path. Part 2, loss of control. The inner fear. Once they can no longer deny the fact that you've left, a far more terrifying feeling begins to take over: the loss of control. In the narcissist's mind, the foundation of power was never built on genuine love. It was a system of reflexes, manipulation, and emotional steering. They measure closeness not by mutual empathy, but by their ability to shift your emotions at will. But you left, and you didn't leave behind anger, blame, or a trail of desperate messages. You left with an inner silence, with a calm resolve that demanded no apology. That didn't just crack the illusion of control they clung to, forced them to confront a chilling existential question: who am I if no one is reacting to me anymore? For the narcissist, losing control is like being exiled from their own psychological kingdom. Their sense of significance is often affirmed through the reactions of others. But you're not texting, you're not reaching out, you're not even sharing your pain or exposing them on social media, and that, more than any confrontation, destroys them faster than words ever could. Narcissists lack a stable sense of self. Their identity is mirrored through you. If you're angry, they feel powerful. If you're hurt, they get to play the comforter. If you're fixated on them, they feel like the center of the universe. But when all those mirrors shatter, they're left staring into a void. They no longer know who they are. In that moment, they become confused, terrified. They start to realize you might actually be moving on. Your silence becomes an announcement they can't ignore. I no longer have power over them. And to the narcissist, that truth stings more than any accusation. They may begin testing the waters. A neutral message, a harmless check-in, a sudden like or comment on your page, all just to see, are you still paying attention to me? But when those attempts receive no response, the realization dawns. This is no longer a game. Under the harsh light of truth, they confront the bitter reality. You're walking away without explanation, without goodbye. And in that, they see you for the first time as both dangerous and unfamiliar. Stay with us for the next parts of this series, where we'll continue exposing the subtle transformations and how the narcissist copes with this loss. Because understanding them isn't about going back. It's about knowing this. Your silence is what they fear most. And in this very moment, you're not just walking away, you're reclaiming yourself. Part 3, playing the victim, a counterattack strategy. When they realize that their old tricks, smearing you, provoking reactions, showing off a new partner, no longer work, the narcissist switches roles. This time they become the victim. They no longer lash out, threaten, or target your pain. Instead, they fall into a suspicious silence, pretending to be in deep emotional sorrow. They post melancholic statuses. Sometimes we lose the best things because we didn't know how to hold on. Or I understand why you left. I'm changing now. They don't face the fire. They don't take accountability. They mourn. They emphasize that they are the victim of childhood trauma, of emotional wounds, of internal chaos that has haunted them all along. They echo the very words you once used to try to inspire their change. You once told them you need to heal, and I believe being kind to you might help you grow. Now they're using your own language to convince you that they are, in fact, transforming. But true transformation never comes with an agenda. When a narcissist starts saying they're healing, going to therapy, or finding themselves, it's rarely for genuine growth. It's a tool, a calculated move to lure you back in, to reclaim your attention, to regain control. And when the victim role doesn't achieve the desired effect, they upgrade the act. They become the enlightened one. Suddenly, they speak of meditation, self-help books, and spiritual therapy. They flaunt reading the books you once recommended, using the exact vocabulary you once used in your desperate attempts to pull them from the darkness. But remember this, those who truly heal don't need an audience. They don't parade their growth to prove a point. For the narcissist, healing is nothing more than a polished mask, repurposed from counterfeit pain. When they see you remain silent, no reaction, no request for closure, no passive-aggressive posts, they pivot again. Now you're the cold one. You're the one who gave up on someone who was truly changing. They flipped the script. They're the one who regrets, and you're the one who failed to appreciate the chance. But deep inside, you know the truth. You once believed. You once empathized. You once tried to rescue them, and now you finally understood the best thing you can do for them is let go. Stay with us for the next part of this series, because once their performance ends and there's no audience left, they'll begin to seek a new stage, a new replacement. But what they don't realize is this: you've stepped off the carousel, and that is the real victory. Part 4, the replacement, a move to provoke jealousy. When all other roles have failed, when your silence remains unwavering and immovable, the narcissist turns to their ultimate tactic, the one they believe can still stir your emotions, a replacement. The new person usually appears suddenly. This is the stage of engagement photos, overly sweet status updates, and a flood of posts drenched in artificial intimacy. You see them holding hands with someone else, smiling under captions like, "For the first time in my life, I truly understand love." But don't be fooled. This isn't love. This isn't genuine connection. This is panic wrapped in perfume. The new person is not a soulmate. They are a tool, a distraction, a filler for the void you left behind. Narcissists cannot sit with emptiness. They need someone, anyone, to reflect their image back to them, even if that person is entirely incompatible. And if they can use the new person to make you jealous, to make you question your worth, it's a double win for them. They want you to see it. They want you to ask yourself, are they happier now? Was I the problem? Did they change for someone else? But you are no longer who you used to be. You observe all of this with clarity. You know they haven't truly changed. They've simply changed the stage, the audience. The new person will eventually notice the same patterns, the same need for control, the same carefully crafted deceptions. They think they're still the star of the show, but you've exited the theater. You're no longer triggered by their displays. You don't need to track their life to validate your worth. You're living for yourself now. And the one thing that unsettles them more than anything else, you're not jealous. You don't react. You don't reach out. You simply remain silent. And in that silence, they realize they've lost the most precious power they had over you, your emotional response. The replacement isn't proof that they've been reborn. It's just another mask, another act, another audience. But you've walked away. You're no longer a spectator. Stay with us in the next part as we uncover how, even with someone new by their side, they continue to follow your life from the shadows. Because deep down, they know no replacement can fill the void you left. Part 5, Silent Watching, the Quiet Obsession. When it becomes undeniably clear to them that they no longer hold the lead role in your story, when every tactic, every performance, every manipulation has reached its limit, they finally realize you've truly left. But that realization doesn't make them stop. On the contrary, it's the moment they become a ghost, lingering behind your life, silent, hidden, obsessive. They watch you from afar on social media. They ask mutual friends about you, using subtle tricks to gather information without being noticed. The less they know, the more agitated they become. Every photo you post, every joyful update sparks a storm of questions in their mind. Are they really happy or just pretending? Have they moved on? Do I still matter to them at all? Narcissists aren't interested in truth. They're interested in significance. They're haunted by one question. Have I truly become irrelevant in their world? Every glimpse of your success becomes a thorn pressing deeper into their ego. They suspect that you've genuinely outgrown them, and that thought is their worst nightmare. You've stayed silent. You've let go. You no longer wait for an apology, a phone call, or a confession. You don't need their downfall to feel victorious. You only seek healing, freedom, and wholeness, and your presence, peaceful, radiant, undisturbed, is more terrifying than any rage they ever imagined from you. In their mind, they once believed you were theirs, that you would always engage, always knock on their door for answers, always reflect their deluded sense of self. But when you chose to walk away without a speech, without demands, they began to face a chilling truth. They've lost you forever. Even with someone new at their side, even as they outwardly display a fiery romance, deep down, they're still comparing. You've become a standard they can't surpass. What rattles them more than a wounded ego is the fact that they can no longer define who you are to them. You've become a mystery, a free soul no longer bound to their narrative. You don't need to respond. You don't need to argue. You don't need to prove you've moved on. All you have to do is keep living, embracing yourself, walking a new path rooted in your inner worth. And that quiet, unshakable presence, needing no defense, no justification, is the most powerful declaration of all. Stay with us in the next part, where we'll expose the stages of their crumbling influence over the new supply and the silent collapse hiding behind the mask they wear so well. Part 6, losing control over the new supply. At first, everything seems perfect. They smile more, post sweet photos with the new person, and put on a public display of affection. But that's just the surface. As time goes on, the cracks begin to show. The new partner was brought in as a necessary replacement, a new mirror for the narcissist to reflect their fragile, inflated ego. But unlike you, who endured manipulation, endless arguments, and attempts at reconciliation, the new supply struggles to adapt to the narcissist's unspoken rules. They're not yet accustomed to the emotional whiplash, the silent manipulations, or the contradictory words laced with subtle blame. Soon enough, the new partner starts to push back. They don't comply blindly. They ask questions. They set boundaries. They respond with confusion rather than submission to the narcissist's covert control. And that response, authentic, grounded, doesn't fit the pre-written script the narcissist expects. This is when the narcissist begins to lose control. They resort to their usual tactics: silent treatment to punish, love bombing, followed by criticism, manipulation through guilt, or playing the victim to provoke sympathy. But this time, none of it works as planned. Every attempt at silence doesn't produce remorse. Every term of endearment falls flat. They're now facing someone who holds on to their sense of self. The failure becomes undeniable. The new supply doesn't reflect the desperation the narcissist needs. Instead of mirroring back confusion and dependence, they break the pattern. They aren't swayed by conditional affection, and the narcissist begins to lose their glow. From calculated manipulation, the narcissist becomes erratic, unstable, and suddenly thoughts of you start resurfacing, not as someone they defeated, but as someone who broke free, someone they could never fully control. As their internal failure becomes more evident, the narcissist grows more irritable and volatile. They lash out with sharp words, cast blame, and unravel long-suppressed conflicts. The new partner may start to realize they're in love with a well-polished illusion, a person who only knows how to love when they are obeyed. But you're no longer there. You walked away, carrying wounds that have begun to heal, armed with growth that came through pain. And you now understand, no matter how many replacements they try to find, they'll never truly reclaim the power they lost over you. Stay with us in the next part as we reveal how they might attempt to return, testing whether your door is still open, hoping for one last chance to regain control. Part 7. The attempt to return. When they admit failure with the new supply, when they realize the new person is no longer standing still in their game, when their subtle control tactics begin to crumble under that person's clarity and boundaries, the narcissist is struck with a sobering truth: they've hit a dead end. They grow anxious, erratic, and lose their inner balance. In that state of confusion, they think of you. They remember someone who once forgave them, who once gave wholeheartedly, who was patient and hopeful. You were once their safe supply, someone they could always run back to when their world began to unravel. And so they try to come back, sometimes through carefully crafted messages like "I still think about you," or "There's not a day I don't regret what I did." Other times, it's just a subtle like on an old photo, or a surprise birthday greeting after months of silence. But regardless of the form, the motive is the same: to test whether your door is still open. If you respond, even with a simple emoji or a short message, they take it as a green light, a signal to re-enter, to resume the game, to resurrect the same old script. They'll claim they've changed, that they finally see your worth, that they understand now the pain you endured. They'll use the very words you once longed to hear. But you are no longer asleep. You now understand that someone who's truly changed doesn't come back demanding access to your life. They simply live differently, grow sincerely. Not to reclaim you, but because growth was their goal all along. For the narcissist, however, this return isn't a heartfelt apology. It's a survival reflex of a wounded ego. They're not coming back out of remorse. They're coming back because they can't stand being left behind without an explanation. And this is the moment when your strength must speak louder. You are no longer small with hope. You remember now, the only reason you made it through was because you finally stopped waiting for them to change. There's no dramatic farewell to be spoken, just a quiet gratitude inside you that you left when it mattered most, that you once loved fully, and that now you are fully free. Stay with us for the next part, where we witness the quiet, miraculous rebirth of a life no longer defined by dependence, a beginning that is yours and yours alone. Part 8, the quiet rebirth. When you choose to let go in peace, they came back just as you predicted, but you no longer meet them with vulnerability. You are no longer the remnant of an old battle. You began with silence, and now you continue with gratitude. You don't react, don't reply, don't second guess, because this time you truly understand. Letting go may break your heart, but it's the only way to protect the integrity of your soul. For the first time, you let go not out of exhaustion or despair, but because you now know that being loved should never require the sacrifice of your own self. That true empathy never demands you to lose your identity for someone who never cherished it. And that realization becomes the quiet energy that carries you into a new chapter, a rebirth wrapped in peace. Rebirth is not a dramatic moment. It happens in the small, quiet hours, when you feel the morning sun and know calm has returned to your body, when you laugh without sensing judgment, when you choose silence over emotional games. Rebirth is seeing yourself in the mirror and no longer searching for flaws. It's sitting alone without feeling empty. It's walking into new places without needing someone by your side to feel worthy. You've stopped waiting for confessions. You no longer expect apologies because you've learned that true forgiveness begins with forgiving yourself. You've long abandoned the habit of measuring your worth through someone else's gaze. Now all you need is the certainty that you're living in alignment with your soul. No more pretending, no more shrinking to please others. The narcissist may still be watching, still waiting for a reaction. They may try every trick to pull you back, but you are no longer the scattered fragments of who you once were. You are a whole being, rising. A person who is finally living, not just surviving. True rebirth is a return to yourself, to dreams once buried, to passions you thought were lost, to the gratitude that every ounce of pain you endured was not in vain, and to the sacred boundary you now hold, that no one touches your heart again unless they know how to love it with gentleness. And the most beautiful thing is this: your rebirth doesn't need an audience. You don't need to announce it, prove it, or receive praise for it. You just need to wake up each day, see yourself there, whole, steady, and still full of trust. Please stay with us for the next part, where your freedom becomes the very thing that hurts the narcissist most. Not your resistance, but your indifference. Part 9, when your freedom becomes their greatest defeat. Someone once said the most powerful victory is when you no longer need to prove anything, yet still live a life worthy of admiration. That is who you are now. No reaction, no displays of anger, no retelling of the past. And in that quiet, dignified stillness, you send a message no words can capture. You are free. They once believed your anger meant they still held a place in your heart. They hoped you would react because reactions meant leverage. They wanted you to cry, to rage, to demand justice because that kept them at the center of your world. But you walked through it all without a sound. You've continued living, no longer speaking their name. To them, that is more terrifying than any form of revenge. Not because you are dangerous, but because they can no longer define you. You are no longer the victim. You are no longer the accuser. You are simply someone who has returned to their own essence, no longer using them to shape your identity. And they don't know what to do with that. They can't label you. They can't bait you into emotional games. They've lost the supply, but even more painfully, they've lost their ability to influence, to cast themselves as a victim or a hero. Through silence, you've exposed the truth. They no longer matter to you. Freedom isn't a moment, it's a daily choice. You choose freedom when you don't reply to their messages, when you resist checking their profile, when you lay down confusion and pick up peace. There's no magic moment that announces this freedom, just the quiet decisions that guide you each day. And each day you choose to walk away from the past, to choose calm over chaos, self-worth over the approval of someone who once hurt you. You don't need their acknowledgement. You don't need an apology. You don't need justice. You don't need anyone to witness your pain in order to heal. You just need to keep walking with the grounded presence of someone who knows who they are, knows how they want to live, and no longer looks back. In this story, the one who truly escaped wasn't them, it was you. You stepped out of the cycle, out of the victim role, out of the exhausting loop of regret and false hope. You became the one truth they came bear, that some people really do heal, that some performances lose their audience forever, and that in their failure, in your silence, that becomes their greatest obsession. Thank you for walking with us to the end of this journey. Subscribe to this channel for more deep healing and empowering content. Don't go back to what broke you. Keep moving forward, because every quiet step you take is a new chapter of freedom and restoration. In the end, victory isn't found in their downfall. It's found in your strength to rise and remain standing. No more resentment, no more waiting, no more needing to be understood. You live, you breathe, and you no longer seek validation from anyone. That is the true ending. Not marked by spectacle or goodbyes, but by one undeniable truth: you save yourself. The narcissist may still be watching, still trying to return, still clinging to the remnants of the past, but they no longer have a hold on you. They no longer occupy space in your heart, your mind, or your life. They are no longer the cause of your pain, nor the motivation behind your growth. Now, you don't live to escape them. You live to become who you are always meant to be: whole, peaceful, and empowered. You've learned that silence is not weakness. It's a language of freedom, that you can walk away without applause, that forgiveness isn't always for others. Sometimes it's for yourself. So you can stop blaming your heart for loving the wrong person, for trusting the wrong soul. And now you don't need to end the story with an explanation. You end it with a new chapter, one where you are the main character. No longer manipulated, no longer a side role in someone else's drama. If you're on the path of healing, if you're learning how to rise after being broken and realizing your worth is greater than anything that ever tried to pull you down, remember this: you are not alone. We are here not to point fingers, but to shine a light on your way forward. Hit subscribe so you never miss a piece of content that supports your healing, growth, and rising into your untouchable self. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to live, and live in a way that makes your own heart proud. Because in the stillness you've chosen, there is an unspoken greatness, and in every step you take, there's a quiet but powerful message that echoes through time. I have returned to myself, and I no longer belong to that manipulation.